What if I told you that everything you believe about success is wrong? That the difference between winners and losers isn't talent, luck, or circumstances, but something far more fundamental? What if the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the way your brain is currently wired? Right now, as you're listening to this, your brain is operating on autopilot. It's running programs that were installed years ago, maybe decades ago, by your experiences, your environment, and the people around you. These programs are determining what you think is possible, what you believe you deserve, and what actions you take or don't take every single day. But here's the shocking truth that will change everything. Your brain is not fixed. It's not permanent. Every single thought pattern, every belief, every mental habit that's been holding you back can be rewired, reprogrammed, and transformed. This isn't wishful thinking. This is neuroscience. By the time you finish watching this video, you will not think the same way you do right now. That's not a promise. It's a biological fact. Your brain is rewiring itself every second of every day. Every time you challenge a belief, shift a thought, or practice mental control, you physically change your brain structure. This is called neuroplasticity, and it's the reason why some people break free from limitation while others remain trapped in cycles of mediocrity. The difference isn't luck, it's not talent, it's knowledge and training, and that's exactly what you're about to receive. Most people will never master their mind. They'll keep overthinking, keep doubting themselves, keep making excuses, and keep waiting for the perfect time to change. They'll consume motivational content, and still stay stuck in the same place year after year. Why? Because they never actually take control of their own thinking. They let their fears, their past, and their subconscious programming dictate their actions. But you are not most people. You're here because you're ready to break that cycle. You're here because you want to take control of your mind and start thinking, acting, and living at a higher level. This means what you're about to learn is not passive information. If you just listen without taking action, nothing will change. But if you commit to applying these techniques, your mind will transform and so will your life. Everything you want in life starts in your mind. Success, confidence, happiness, resilience. It's all rooted in your ability to control your thoughts and emotions. No matter where you are right now, no matter how stuck, lost, or unmotivated you feel, the moment you take control of your mind, everything changes. And that journey starts right now. Chapter 1: The Winner's Brain versus the Loser's Brain. There are two types of people in this world. Those who think like winners and those who think like losers. The difference between them isn't what they have. It's how they think. It's not about their circumstances. It's about their mindset. And most importantly, it's not about what happens to them. It's about how their brain processes what happens to them. Winners and losers can experience the exact same situation, the exact same setback, the exact same opportunity, and they will have completely different outcomes. Why? Because their brains are wired differently. They process information differently. They interpret events differently, and they respond to challenges differently. Let me show you exactly what I mean. When a winner faces a setback, their brain immediately starts looking for solutions. They ask questions like, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to get stronger? What opportunity is hidden in this challenge? Their brain is wired to see setbacks as feedback, as data, as stepping stones to something better. When a loser faces the exact same setback, their brain does something completely different. It starts looking for reasons why they're a victim. They ask questions like, why does this always happen to me? Why am I so unlucky? Who can I blame for this? Their brain is wired to see setbacks as evidence that they're not meant to succeed. Same situation, same facts, completely different mental processing. And that mental processing determines everything that happens next. The winner's brain is wired for growth. It sees challenges as opportunities to level up. It interprets failure as feedback. It views obstacles as training. The loser's brain is wired for protection. It sees challenges as threats. It interprets failure as proof of inadequacy. It views obstacles as evidence that success isn't meant for them. But here's what most people don't understand. These neural patterns aren't permanent. They're not personality traits. They're not genetic destiny. They're learned programs that can be unlearned and reprogrammed. Every single thought you think, every belief you hold, every reaction you have is the result of neural pathways in your brain. These pathways were carved out through repetition, through experience, through conditioning. And just like a river can change its course, your neural pathways can be redirected. The most successful people in the world understand this. They know that their external reality is a direct reflection of their internal reality. They know that to change their results, they must first change their thinking. They know that to transform their life, they must first transform their mind. Think about this. Two people can grow up in the same neighborhood, go to the same school, have similar opportunities, and end up in completely different places in life. One becomes successful, fulfilled, and unstoppable. The other stays stuck, makes excuses, and lives in mediocrity. What's the difference? Their brain wiring. The successful person learned to wire their brain for possibility, for resilience, for growth. The unsuccessful person's brain got wired for limitation, for fear, for safety. Same environment, different programming, drastically different results. But here's the game-changing truth. Regardless of how your brain is currently wired, regardless of what patterns you've developed, regardless of what you currently believe about yourself and your potential, you can rewire everything. You can reprogram your mind. You can transform your mental operating system from one that holds you back to one that propels you forward. The winner's brain operates on abundance. It believes there are always opportunities, always solutions, always ways to improve. The loser's brain operates on scarcity. It believes opportunities are rare, problems are permanent, and improvement is impossible. The winner's brain focuses on what it can control. It directs energy toward actions, decisions, and responses that create results. The loser's brain focuses on what it can't control. It wastes energy on circumstances, other people, and events that are outside its influence. The winner's brain is future-focused. It constantly asks, where am I going? What am I building? How can I get better? The loser's brain is past-focused. It constantly replays, what went wrong? Why did this happen? How was I wronged? The winner's brain takes responsibility. It owns outcomes, learns from mistakes, and uses failures as fuel for improvement. The loser's brain assigns blame. It finds external reasons for failures, makes excuses, and uses setbacks as reasons to quit. The winner's brain sees setbacks as temporary. It knows that every failure is just information. Every obstacle is just a puzzle to solve. Every challenge is just an opportunity to grow stronger. The loser's brain sees setbacks as permanent. It interprets failures as proof of inadequacy, obstacles as signs to give up, challenges as evidence that success isn't meant for them. Most importantly, the winner's brain understands that thinking patterns are a choice. Winners know they can consciously direct their thoughts, deliberately choose their focus, and intentionally program their responses. Losers believe they're victims of their thoughts, that their mind just happens to them, that they have no control over their mental patterns. But here's what you need to understand. Every single one of these mental patterns can be learned, practiced, and mastered. The winner's brain isn't some genetic gift. It's a trained skill. It's a developed capability. It's a conscious choice that becomes an unconscious habit. Right now, your brain is operating on whatever programming was installed throughout your life. Some of that programming serves you. Some of it doesn't. Some of it propels you forward. Some of it holds you back. The question is, are you going to let your past programming determine your future results? Or are you going to take control and install new programming that serves your goals? Because here's the truth that changes everything. Your brain doesn't care what programs are running in it. It doesn't have a preference for success or failure, for confidence or doubt, for abundance or scarcity. Your brain is neutral. It simply runs whatever programs have been installed through repetition and emotional intensity. This means you have the power to install any program you want. You can wire your brain for unstoppable confidence. You can program your mind for relentless persistence. You can code your thinking for unlimited possibility. You can train your mental operating system to process every situation like a winner. But first, you need to understand exactly how this programming works, how it got installed in the first place, and most importantly, how to change it. Because once you master the science of mental reprogramming, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, you cannot achieve. Chapter 2: The Science of Mental Reprogramming. Your brain is the most sophisticated computer ever created. And just like any computer, it operates based on the software that's been installed in it. Right now, your mental software is determining everything about your life. What you believe is possible, what you think you deserve, what actions you take, what opportunities you notice, and what results you create. But here's what most people don't realize. You are not stuck with the mental software you currently have. You can upgrade it, reprogram it, and completely transform it. The science behind this transformation is called neuroplasticity, and it's the most important discovery in neuroscience history. Neuroplasticity means your brain is plastic, changeable, moldable. For decades, scientists believed that adult brains were fixed, that neural patterns were permanent, that you were essentially stuck with whatever mental wiring you developed by early adulthood. This belief was completely wrong. We now know that your brain is constantly rewiring itself. Every single day, every single moment, your brain is creating new neural connections and weakening old ones. Every time you think a thought, feel an emotion, or take an action, you're literally reshaping your brain structure. This means that every limiting belief you have, every fear that holds you back, every negative thought pattern that sabotages your success was created through neuroplasticity. But it also means that every empowering belief, every surge of confidence, every moment of unstoppable determination can be created through the same process. The key is understanding how neuroplasticity works and then using it intentionally to rewire your brain for success instead of letting it randomly wire your brain for limitation. Your brain has approximately 86 billion neurons, and each neuron can connect to thousands of other neurons. This creates an almost infinite number of possible neural networks. The networks that get used most often become strongest. The networks that get used least often become weakest. This is the fundamental principle behind all mental change. Whatever you repeatedly think, feel, and do becomes your default mental programming. When you were born, your brain was like a fresh computer with basic operating software, but no specific programs. Everything you've learned, every belief you've developed, every habit you've formed, every emotional pattern you express was installed through repetition and emotional intensity. If you grew up in an environment where people struggled with money, where success was seen as rare, where dreams were discouraged, those became your default mental programs. If you experienced repeated failures, rejections, or criticisms, your brain wired itself to expect and prepare for more of the same. If you were surrounded by limitation thinking, scarcity mindset, and fear-based decision, those patterns became your neural highways. But here's the revolutionary truth. What was programmed can be reprogrammed. What was wired can be rewired. What was learned can be unlearned and replaced with something better. The process of mental reprogramming follows three fundamental principles: repetition, emotional intensity, and consistency. Repetition means that to install new mental programming, you must repeatedly expose your brain to new thoughts, new beliefs, and new experiences. Just like learning to play piano requires repeatedly practicing the same movements until they become automatic, rewiring your brain requires repeatedly practicing new thought patterns until they become your default. Emotional intensity means that the more emotion you attach to a new thought or belief, the faster your brain will accept it as real. Your brain pays more attention to emotionally charged experiences. This is why traumatic events can instantly create new fears or phobias, and why peak experiences can instantly create new confidence or motivation. The stronger the emotion, the deeper the neural imprint. Consistency means that sporadic effort produces sporadic results, but consistent effort produces permanent change. Your brain needs regular ongoing reinforcement to fully integrate new programming. This is why motivation alone doesn't create lasting change, but daily practice does. Most people fail at mental reprogramming because they violate these principles. They try to change their thinking overnight. They don't attach enough emotion to new beliefs, or they practice inconsistently. They read a book, watch a video, or attend a seminar, feel inspired for a few days, then fall back into old patterns because they didn't properly install new programming. But when you understand and apply these principles correctly, mental transformation becomes inevitable. When you consistently repeat new thought patterns with emotional intensity, your brain has no choice but to rewire itself. The old neural pathways weaken, the new neural pathways strengthen, and eventually the new programming becomes your automatic response. Think about how you learn to drive a car. At first, you had to consciously think about every single action. Checking mirrors, pressing pedals, steering, signaling. It felt overwhelming because your brain had no existing neural pathways for these complex movements. But through repetition, those movements became automatic. Now you can drive while having conversations, listening to music, or thinking about other things because the neural pathways for driving have become so strong they operate unconsciously. Mental reprogramming works exactly the same way. Right now, thinking negatively, doubting yourself, focusing on problems, or feeling overwhelmed might feel automatic because those neural pathways have been strengthened through years of repetition. But you can build new neural pathways for thinking positively, believing in yourself, focusing on solutions, and feeling unstoppable. The most successful people in the world understand this process. They know that their mental programming determines their results, so they take conscious control of their programming. They don't leave their thinking to chance. They don't hope for the best. They deliberately install mental software that serves their goals. They understand that confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop through repeatedly acting confident until confidence becomes your default state. They know that resilience isn't a personality trait. It's a mental skill developed through repeatedly responding to challenges with determination instead of defeat. They realize that success thinking isn't natural talent. It's trained thinking developed through repeatedly focusing on possibilities instead of problems. But here's what separates the truly elite from everyone else. They understand that mental reprogramming isn't just about positive thinking or affirmations. It's about fundamentally changing how their brain processes information, interprets events, and generates responses. They don't just think differently. They've rewired their brains to automatically think differently. They don't just act confident. They've programmed their minds to default to confidence. They don't just pursue goals. They've conditioned their brains to relentlessly focus on achievement. This level of mental transformation requires understanding the deeper mechanisms of how your brain creates your reality. Because your thoughts don't just influence your actions, they literally shape what you perceive, what you notice, and what opportunities become available to you. Chapter 3: The Invisible Prison of Limiting Beliefs. Right now, you are living inside an invisible prison. The bars are made of beliefs. The walls are built from assumptions, and the locks are forged from fears. But here's the most shocking part. You are both the prisoner and the jailer. You created this prison. You maintain this prison. And most importantly, you have the key to escape this prison. This invisible prison is made up of limiting beliefs. And they are the single biggest obstacle standing between you and the life you want. Limiting beliefs are thoughts that you've repeated so many times, you now accept them as facts. They're opinions that have become convictions. They're interpretations that have become truths. But here's what you need to understand. Limiting beliefs are not facts. They're not truths. They're not realities. They're simply neural patterns that have been strengthened through repetition and emotional reinforcement. And because they're neural patterns, they can be changed. Most people don't even realize they have limiting beliefs because these beliefs have become so automatic, so unconscious, so integrated into their thinking that they feel like natural parts of their personality. They think thoughts like, "I'm not good enough. Success is too hard. I always mess things up. Money is scarce. I don't deserve happiness." And they accept these thoughts as facts about themselves and the world. But every single one of these thoughts is a choice. Every limiting belief is a mental habit. Every self-defeating pattern is a learned response that can be unlearned and replaced with something empowering. The most dangerous limiting beliefs are the ones you don't recognize as beliefs. They're the assumptions that feel so true, so obvious, so natural that you never question them. They operate below your conscious awareness, silently shaping every decision you make, every action you take, and every result you create. Let me give you some examples of invisible limiting beliefs that might be running your life right now. I have to work hard to be successful. This belief keeps you trapped in the hustle mentality, trading time for money instead of building systems that create wealth. Success requires sacrifice. This belief makes you think you have to choose between success and happiness, between achievement and relationships, between money and fulfillment. I'm not smart enough. This belief stops you from pursuing opportunities, learning new skills, or taking risks that could transform your life. Money doesn't grow on trees. This belief programs your brain to see money as scarce, difficult to obtain, and something you have to struggle for. You can't trust anyone. This belief isolates you from relationships, partnerships, and opportunities that require collaboration. Life is hard. This belief makes you expect struggle, anticipate problems, and approach challenges with dread instead of excitement. Each of these beliefs feels true to the person who holds it because their brain has been collecting evidence to support it for years or decades. Their reticular activating system, the part of their brain that filters information, has been programmed to notice everything that confirms these beliefs and ignore everything that contradicts them. If you believe money is scarce, your brain will notice every story about financial struggle and overlook every story about financial abundance. If you believe success requires sacrifice, your brain will focus on examples of successful people who gave up everything and ignore examples of successful people who have balanced, fulfilling lives. If you believe you're not smart enough, your brain will magnify every mistake you make and minimize every achievement you accomplish. This is how limiting beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecies. They don't just shape what you think, they shape what you see. They don't just influence your actions, they filter your perception of reality. They create a feedback loop where your beliefs determine your focus. Your focus determines your actions. Your actions determine your results. And your results seem to confirm your beliefs. But here's the truth that shatters this entire system. Your beliefs are not based on reality. Reality is based on your beliefs. Your external world is a reflection of your internal world. Your circumstances are a manifestation of your consciousness. What you believe becomes what you perceive. And what you perceive becomes what you experience. This means that changing your beliefs doesn't just change your thinking. It changes your entire reality. When you replace limiting beliefs with empowering beliefs, you don't just feel different. You literally see different opportunities, notice different possibilities, and attract different circumstances. The most successful people in the world understand this principle. They know that their beliefs are their most valuable assets or their most destructive liabilities. They know that upgrading their beliefs is more important than upgrading their skills, more powerful than upgrading their strategies, and more transformative than upgrading their circumstances. They've discovered that there are no limits except the ones they accept in their mind. They understand that every limitation they've experienced was first a limitation they believed. They realize that every breakthrough they've achieved was first a breakthrough in their thinking. But most people live their entire lives without ever questioning their beliefs. They inherit beliefs from their parents, absorb beliefs from their culture, and adopt beliefs from their experiences without ever examining whether these beliefs serve them or sabotage them. They carry around beliefs that were installed when they were children, when they didn't have the wisdom to evaluate whether these beliefs were true or helpful. They operate based on beliefs that were formed during their worst moments, their most painful experiences, their most vulnerable states, without ever updating these beliefs based on their growth, their learning, their expanded capabilities. It's like trying to run modern software on an outdated operating system. It's like trying to drive a Ferrari with the brakes on. It's like trying to fly while carrying lead weights. The first step to escaping the invisible prison of limiting beliefs is becoming aware that the prison exists. Most people don't realize they're in prison because they've never known freedom. They think their current reality is the only reality possible. They assume their current results are the only results available. They believe their current limitations are permanent and unchangeable. But once you realize that your limitations are just beliefs, that your beliefs are just thoughts, and that your thoughts are just choices, everything changes. Once you understand that every belief was learned and can therefore be unlearned, you gain the power to consciously choose beliefs that serve your goals instead of unconsciously accepting beliefs that sabotage your dreams. The second step is identifying which specific limiting beliefs are running your life. This requires honest self-examination, ruthless self-awareness, and the courage to question beliefs that might feel fundamental to your identity. Ask yourself, what do I believe about money? What do I believe about success? What do I believe about my capabilities? What do I believe about what's possible for someone like me? What do I believe about what I deserve? What do I believe about how hard I have to work? What do I believe about what other people think of me? Write down your immediate instinctive answers. Don't filter them. Don't judge them. Don't try to make them sound good. Just capture your raw, honest beliefs. These are the mental programs currently running your life. The third step is challenging these beliefs with logic, evidence, and empowering alternatives. For every limiting belief you identify, ask, is this absolutely true? Where did this belief come from? What evidence contradicts this belief? How is this belief serving me? How is this belief limiting me? What would be a more empowering belief? What would be possible if I believed something different? The fourth step is installing new empowering beliefs through repetition, emotional intensity, and consistency. This isn't just about positive thinking or wishful thinking. This is about systematically reprogramming your brain to operate based on beliefs that serve your goals instead of beliefs that sabotage your dreams. But before you can install new programming, you need to understand exactly how your current programming was installed in the first place. You need to understand the hidden forces that have been shaping your reality without your conscious awareness. You need to discover the silent architect that has been building your life behind the scenes. Chapter 4. The Silent Architect, Your Subconscious Mind. There is an invisible force shaping every thought you think, every action you take, and every experience you have. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't make itself obvious. Instead, it operates in the background, molding your reality without you even realizing it. This force is your subconscious mind. And whether you are aware of it or not, it is the architect of your life. Most people believe their experiences shape their beliefs. If they struggle with money, they believe it's because opportunities are scarce. If they keep attracting toxic relationships, they assume it's just bad luck. If they lack confidence, they think it's because they were born that way. But here's the shocking truth. It's the other way around. Your beliefs don't come from your experiences. Your experiences come from your beliefs. Your subconscious is like a projection machine. Whatever is programmed into it, your core beliefs, fears, and expectations, it will seek to confirm in the external world. If you believe deep down that money is hard to come by, your subconscious will filter reality to reinforce that belief. It will cause you to overlook opportunities, to self-sabotage, to stay stuck in the same financial patterns no matter how hard you try. If you believe relationships are painful, your subconscious will steer you toward people who prove that belief true, even if consciously you swear you want something different. This is why some people seem to effortlessly attract success, while others struggle no matter how hard they work. It's not luck. It's not just talent. It's because their subconscious is programmed for a different internal reality. And that internal reality creates their external world. If you want to change your life, you must change the blueprint. You must rewrite these subconscious programs that have been silently shaping your reality. Because once you do, the external world has no choice but to follow. This might sound like magic, but it's actually neuroscience. Your brain is wired to function based on patterns and predictability. It doesn't like randomness. It craves certainty. And the way it creates that certainty is by filtering reality to match what it already expects to see. The part of your brain responsible for this is the reticular activating system, the RA. It acts like a gatekeeper determining which information reaches your conscious mind. Right now, there are millions of bits of information coming at you. Sounds, colors, sensations, conversations happening around you. But your brain filters out almost all of it, only letting through what it considers relevant. And what does it consider relevant? Whatever aligns with your subconscious beliefs. This is why once you buy a new car, you suddenly start seeing that same model everywhere. It was always there, but your brain didn't notice it before because it wasn't part of your internal reality. Now that it is, your RA lets it through. The same principle applies to everything in your life. Success, confidence, love, abundance. If your subconscious does not believe something is possible for you, your RA will filter out anything that contradicts that belief, keeping you trapped in the same patterns. This is why affirmations alone don't work. You can tell yourself 1,000 times, "I am successful." But if your subconscious does not believe it, your RA will continue filtering reality to prove you wrong. The key is to reprogram the subconscious first to change what it believes is possible so that your brain starts filtering new evidence to support the reality you want. Your subconscious was programmed through years of repetition, emotional experiences, and environmental conditioning. Every message you received about money, success, relationships, and your own capabilities was downloaded into your subconscious and became part of your operating system. If you grew up hearing, "Money doesn't grow on trees," your subconscious absorbed that as truth. If you experienced failures and were told, "You're not smart enough," your subconscious filed that as fact. If you witnessed your parents struggle and heard life is hard, your subconscious accepted that as reality. These programs were installed when you were young, when your brain was most impressionable. When you didn't have the critical thinking skills to evaluate whether these messages were true or helpful, but they became the foundation of how you see yourself in the world. The problem is that most people never update their subconscious programming. They carry around beliefs that were installed when they were children when they didn't have the wisdom to choose empowering beliefs over limiting ones. They operate based on programs that were created during their worst moments, their most painful experiences, their most vulnerable states. It's like trying to run a modern business using a computer from 1985. The hardware might still function, but the software is completely outdated and inadequate for current demands. But here's the revolutionary truth. What has been programmed can be reprogrammed. Your mind is not a fixed entity locked in place like an unchangeable machine. It is a living, evolving system shaped by the inputs you allow into it. And just as your subconscious was trained to believe in limitations, it can be trained to believe in limitless potential. Breaking free from subconscious programming requires understanding three core principles: awareness, repetition, and emotional intensity. Awareness means you cannot change what you do not see. Most people struggle to break free from negative habits, destructive thought patterns, and limiting beliefs because they are unaware of their own programming. They believe that the way they think, feel, and behave is simply who they are, never questioning whether these patterns were installed by external influences, past traumas, or societal conditioning. But the moment you become aware that your thoughts and beliefs are not absolute truths, but rather programs running in your subconscious, you gain the power to change them. Start by paying attention to your internal dialogue. What are the dominant thoughts that shape your daily experience? Do you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough? Do you catch yourself assuming the worst, doubting your abilities, or expecting failure before you even begin? These thoughts are not random. They are the result of subconscious programming, and they are keeping you stuck in the same cycle of self-sabotage. Next, examine the patterns in your life. If you repeatedly struggle with the same issues, whether it's financial instability, unhealthy relationships, or a lack of self-confidence, it is not because you are unlucky or incapable. It is because your subconscious mind is wired to recreate what it knows. It seeks familiarity, even if that familiarity is painful. If your subconscious was programmed to associate money with stress, relationships with disappointment, or success with overwhelming pressure, it will subconsciously guide you toward those outcomes over and over again. But once you see the pattern, you can break it. The moment you recognize that these beliefs are not facts, but programs, you begin to dismantle them from the inside out. Repetition means your subconscious learns through consistent reinforcement. Not by hearing something once, but by experiencing it over and over again until it becomes the new default. This is why habits feel automatic, because the neural pathways controlling them have been strengthened over time. Just as old patterns were built, new patterns can be installed. The key is repetition and emotional intensity. The subconscious responds to emotion, not logic. You can tell yourself, "I am confident." But if you don't feel it, your subconscious won't register it as real. The key is to attach emotion to the new belief, to visualize it vividly, to feel the excitement of success, to embody the confidence you want to create. This is why visualization is so powerful. When you mentally rehearse success, your brain fires the same neural pathways as if you were actually experiencing it. The more emotionally real you can make a new belief feel, the faster your subconscious will accept it as truth. Emotional intensity means that the stronger the emotion attached to an experience or belief, the deeper the neural imprint. This is why traumatic events can instantly create new fears or phobias, and why peak experiences can instantly create new confidence or motivation. You can use this principle to accelerate your mental reprogramming instead of just thinking about your goals. Feel them. Instead of just visualizing success, experience the emotions of already having achieved it. Instead of just repeating affirmations, embody the energy of the person you're becoming. The most successful people in the world understand these principles. They know that their subconscious programming determines their results, so they take conscious control of their programming. They don't leave their beliefs to chance. They don't hope their conditioning will magically change. They systematically reprogram their minds to support their goals instead of sabotage their dreams. They understand that at the core of subconscious reprogramming is identity. You don't just want to change behaviors. You want to change who you believe you are. Because once you shift your identity, everything else falls into place. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you will unconsciously make decisions that keep you struggling. If you see yourself as someone who is confident, successful, and capable, your subconscious will align your actions to match that identity. The key is to act as if to start embodying the mindset, the habits, and the energy of the person you want to become. The moment you fully commit to a new identity, everything changes. Your mind stops resisting. Your subconscious stops fighting back. And suddenly, change doesn't feel forced. It feels natural. But to fully master this process, you need to understand not just how to reprogram your subconscious, but how to think like someone who has already achieved everything you want. You need to adopt the mental operating system of a winner. Chapter 5. Installing the winner's operating system. Right now, your mind is running an operating system. Just like your computer or phone has software that determines how it functions, your brain has mental software that determines how you think, how you feel, how you respond to challenges, and ultimately what results you create in your life. The question is, What operating system are you currently running? Is it the winner's operating system that processes every situation as an opportunity? Every setback is feedback, every challenge is training. Or is it the victim operating system that interprets problems as proof of powerlessness, obstacles as evidence of unfairness, and failures as confirmation of inadequacy? Most people are running outdated mental software. They're trying to create extraordinary results using ordinary thinking. They're attempting to achieve winner-level success while operating loser-level programming. And then they wonder why they keep getting the same results over and over again. But today, that changes. Today, you're going to learn how to completely upgrade your mental operating system. You're going to discover how to install the same mental software that separates winners from everyone else. You're going to understand exactly how successful people think, why they think that way, and most importantly, how you can train your brain to think the same way. The winner's operating system is built on 5 core principles that fundamentally change how your brain processes reality. These aren't just positive thinking techniques or motivational concepts. These are cognitive frameworks that literally rewire how your mind interprets events, generates responses, and creates results. Principle 1: Extreme ownership. Winners take responsibility for everything in their lives, even things that aren't technically their fault. They understand that while they can't control what happens to them, they can always control how they respond to what happens to them. And their response determines their results. When something goes wrong, losers immediately start looking for someone or something to blame. They ask questions like, "Who did this to me? Why is this happening to me? What external force is responsible for my problems?" This mental pattern keeps them powerless because they're focusing on factors outside their control. Winners ask completely different questions. What could I have done differently? How can I prevent this in the future? What can I learn from this experience? How can I use this to become stronger? This mental pattern keeps them powerful because they're focusing on factors within their control. The winner's operating system is programmed to assume responsibility even when it's not required because responsibility equals power. The more responsibility you take, the more control you have. The more control you have, the more results you can create. This doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything that goes wrong. It means training your brain to immediately shift from "what happened to me" to "what can I do about it?" It means programming your mind to focus on response rather than circumstances, on solutions rather than problems, on action rather than reaction. Principle 2: Growth mindset supremacy. The winner's operating system is built on the fundamental belief that everything can be improved, every skill can be developed, every challenge can be overcome, and every limitation can be transcended through learning, practice, and persistence. Losers operate from a fixed mindset. They believe their abilities are set in stone. Their intelligence is predetermined. Their potential is limited by their current circumstances. When they encounter difficulties, they interpret them as evidence that they don't have what it takes. When they face failures, they see proof that they're not meant to succeed. Winners operate from a growth mindset. They believe their abilities can be developed. Their intelligence can be increased. Their potential is unlimited as long as they're willing to learn and grow. When they encounter difficulties, they interpret them as opportunities to develop new capabilities. When they face failures, they see valuable feedback that helps them improve their approach. The winner's operating system processes every experience through the filter of growth. Every setback becomes a setup for a comeback. Every obstacle becomes training for bigger challenges. Every failure becomes education for future success. This mental programming creates a completely different relationship with challenge and adversity. Instead of avoiding difficulties, winners seek them out because they know that growth only happens outside the comfort zone. Instead of fearing failure, winners embrace it because they understand that failure is the fastest path to learning. Principle 3: Solution-focused processing. The winner's operating system is programmed to immediately shift from problem identification to solution generation. While most people get stuck analyzing problems, complaining about circumstances, and discussing why things are difficult, winners spend their mental energy finding solutions, creating strategies, and taking action. When losers encounter a problem, they ask, "Why is this so hard? Why does this always happen? How unfair is this situation?" These questions keep them stuck in problem-focused thinking, which generates frustration, helplessness, and inaction. When winners encounter the exact same problem, they ask, "How can I solve this? What resources do I need? Who can help me? What's the fastest path forward?" These questions immediately shift them into solution-focused thinking, which generates creativity, resourcefulness, and action. The winner's operating system contains a built-in assumption that every problem has a solution. Every challenge has a pathway through it. Every obstacle has a way around it. This assumption doesn't guarantee that solutions will be easy or obvious, but it guarantees that mental energy will be directed toward finding solutions rather than dwelling on problems. This programming creates what psychologists call solution fluency, the ability to rapidly generate multiple approaches to any challenge. Winners don't just find one solution. They find several solutions and choose the best one. They don't just solve problems. They solve them faster, more efficiently, and more creatively than everyone else. Principle 4. Abundance processing. The winner's operating system operates on the fundamental assumption that there is always enough. Enough opportunities, enough resources, enough time, enough possibilities. This creates a completely different approach to goals, relationships, and decision. Losers operate from scarcity programming. They believe opportunities are rare, resources are limited, time is running out, and success is a zero-sum game where someone else's win means their loss. This programming creates fear-based decision, competitive thinking, and hoarding behaviors. Winners operate from abundance programming. They believe opportunities are everywhere. Resources can be created or attracted. Time can be leveraged and success is unlimited because value creation is unlimited. This programming creates opportunity-based decision, collaborative thinking, and generous behaviors. The winner's operating system scans reality for possibilities rather than limitations. It notices what's available rather than what's missing. It focuses on what can be created rather than what already exists. This mental programming literally changes what you see in your environment, what opportunities you notice, and what resources become available to you. Principle 5. Future-focused orientation. The winner's operating system is primarily concerned with where you're going, not where you've been. It processes current situations based on future goals rather than past experiences. It makes decisions based on who you're becoming rather than who you've been. Losers are past-focused. They make decisions based on previous failures. They judge current opportunities through the lens of old disappointments. They limit future possibilities based on historical limitations. This keeps them trapped in cycles of repeating the same patterns and expecting different results. Winners are future-focused. They make decisions based on future goals. They evaluate current opportunities through the lens of ultimate objectives. They expand future possibilities by learning from but not living in the past. This programming creates momentum, optimism, and strategic thinking. The winner's operating system contains built-in future vision that influences every decision, every action, every response. Instead of asking what has been true, it asks what could be true. Instead of being limited by historical patterns, it's inspired by future possibilities. But understanding these principles intellectually is not enough. Knowledge without application is just entertainment. To actually upgrade your mental operating system, you need to systematically install these new thinking patterns through deliberate practice, consistent reinforcement, and emotional conditioning. The installation process requires 3 phases: recognition, replacement, and reinforcement. Recognition means becoming aware of when your old operating system is running. You need to catch yourself thinking like a victim instead of a winner, focusing on problems instead of solutions, operating from scarcity instead of abundance. This requires developing what I call metacognitive awareness. Awareness of your own thinking patterns throughout the day. Ask yourself, how am I processing this situation? Am I taking responsibility or assigning blame? Am I looking for solutions or dwelling on problems? Am I operating from abundance or scarcity? Am I focused on growth or focused on limitations? Am I thinking about the future or stuck in the past? Replacement means consciously shifting from old thinking patterns to new ones. When you catch yourself running victim programming, immediately switch to extreme ownership. When you notice problem-focused thinking, deliberately shift to solution generation. When you detect scarcity mindset, consciously access abundance programming. This isn't about suppressing negative thoughts or pretending problems don't exist. It's about training your brain to process the same information through a more empowering framework. The facts don't change, but your interpretation of the facts transforms everything. Reinforcement means strengthening new neural pathways through repetition, emotion, and consistency. Every time you successfully switch from loser thinking to winner thinking, you're building mental muscle. Every time you catch yourself and make a conscious shift, you're installing new programming. The more you practice, the more automatic these new thinking patterns become. Eventually, you won't have to consciously choose winner thinking because winner thinking will become your default. You won't have to force yourself to see opportunities because opportunity recognition will be your automatic response. But installing the winner's operating system is just the beginning. Once you have the right mental software, you need to learn how to use it to systematically destroy every limitation that has been holding you back. You need to understand how to identify and eliminate the specific mental barriers that are preventing you from achieving everything you want. Chapter 6: The 4 Pillars of Unstoppable Confidence. Confidence is not a personality trait. It's not something you're born with. It's not a genetic gift that some people have and others don't. Confidence is a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned, developed, and mastered through the right knowledge and consistent practice. But most people misunderstand what confidence actually is and how it's created. They think confidence comes from success, from having good things happen to them, from external validation and approval. This is backwards. Success doesn't create confidence. Confidence creates success. Real confidence, unshakable confidence, unstoppable confidence is built from the inside out. It's created through mental conditioning, not external circumstances. It's developed through systematic training, not random events. And it's maintained through consistent practice, not temporary wins. The most confident people in the world understand that confidence is a choice they make every single day regardless of what's happening around them. They don't wait for circumstances to give them permission to feel confident. They generate confidence internally and then project it externally. This level of confidence is built on 4 foundational pillars that work together to create an unshakable sense of self-belief, personal power, and unstoppable momentum. When you understand and develop these 4 pillars, you become immune to doubt, resistant to criticism, and unstoppable in pursuit of your goals. Pillar 1: Competence. Confidence. This is confidence that comes from knowing you have the skills, knowledge, and abilities to handle whatever challenges come your way. It's the quiet assurance that comes from preparation, practice, and proven capability. Most people lack confidence because they're constantly putting themselves in situations where they feel unprepared, unskilled, or inadequate. They take on challenges without developing the necessary capabilities, then wonder why they feel anxious, overwhelmed, and doubtful. Confidence is built through what I call systematic skill development. Instead of hoping you'll figure things out as you go, you deliberately develop the competencies you need before you need them. Instead of jumping into challenges unprepared, you invest in learning, practicing, and mastering the fundamentals. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect before you start. It means you commit to becoming excellent at whatever you're pursuing. It means you take responsibility for developing the skills that success requires instead of hoping natural talent will be enough. The most confident people are also the most committed to continuous learning. They read voraciously, seek mentorship aggressively, practice relentlessly, and invest heavily in their own development. They understand that competence is not a destination but a journey, not an achievement but a process. But confidence goes deeper than just having skills. It's about developing what psychologists call self-efficacy. The belief in your ability to learn whatever you need to learn, master whatever you need to master, and become whoever you need to become. People with high self-efficacy don't worry about not knowing something because they're confident in their ability to learn it. They don't fear new challenges because they trust their capacity to develop new capabilities. They don't avoid difficult situations because they believe in their power to grow into them. This level of confidence is developed through deliberately seeking challenges that stretch your capabilities, taking on projects that require you to learn new skills, and consistently proving to yourself that you can figure things out. Every time you successfully learn something new, master a difficult skill, or overcome a challenging situation, you build evidence that supports your belief in your own competence. Pillar 2. Character confidence. This is confidence that comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you're committed to, regardless of external circumstances or other people's opinions. It's the unshakable inner strength that comes from having clear values, strong principles, and unwavering integrity. Most people lack character confidence because they haven't done the inner work of defining their identity, clarifying their values, or establishing their non-negotiable principles. They're constantly seeking external validation because they don't have internal validation. They are easily influenced by others because they haven't established their own foundation. Character confidence is built through what I call identity architecture. The deliberate process of designing who you want to be and then consistently acting in alignment with that identity. It's about becoming so clear on your values that you never compromise them, so committed to your principles that you never violate them, and so aligned with your purpose that you never lose direction. This requires brutal honesty about who you currently are versus who you want to become. It requires identifying the gap between your current character and your ideal character, then systematically closing that gap through conscious choices and consistent actions. People with strong character confidence make decisions based on their values, not their feelings. They choose actions based on their principles, not their impulses. They stay committed to their goals based on their purpose, not their moods. This creates an inner stability that nothing external can shake. But character confidence also requires what I call authenticity courage. The willingness to be genuinely yourself even when it's uncomfortable, unpopular, or risky. Most people are so concerned with fitting in, being liked, and avoiding rejection that they hide their true selves and pretend to be someone they're not. This creates a fundamental confidence problem because when you're pretending to be someone else, you never get to experience being accepted for who you really are. You never get to build evidence that your authentic self is valuable, worthwhile, and acceptable. Authenticity. Courage means being willing to express your real thoughts, share your genuine feelings, pursue your actual interests, and live according to your true values. Even when it means some people might not approve. The paradox is that the more authentic you become, the more confident you feel, and the more confident you feel, the more attractive you become to the right people. Pillar 3. Courage, confidence. This is confidence that comes from repeatedly facing your fears, taking bold actions, and proving to yourself that you can handle whatever life throws at you. It's the deep knowing that you have the inner strength to deal with challenges, setbacks, and uncertainties. Most people lack courage, confidence because they spend their lives avoiding discomfort, minimizing risks, and staying within their comfort zones. They choose safety over growth, certainty over opportunity, and comfort over courage. This creates a downward spiral where the less they challenge themselves, the less confident they become in their ability to handle challenges. Courage confidence is built through what I call progressive fear-facing, systematically exposing yourself to increasingly challenging situations that require you to act despite fear, uncertainty, or discomfort. It's about deliberately choosing growth over comfort, action over analysis, and courage over convenience. This doesn't mean being reckless or stupid. It means being strategic about expanding your comfort zone, intelligent about taking calculated risks, and intentional about building your tolerance for uncertainty and discomfort. Every time you do something that scares you and survive, you build evidence that fear is not dangerous. Every time you take action despite uncertainty and succeed, you prove that uncertainty is not paralyzing. Every time you face a challenge and overcome it, you demonstrate that you're stronger than you think. But courage confidence goes beyond just facing external challenges. It also requires what I call emotional courage. The willingness to feel whatever emotions arise without being controlled by them. Most people are afraid of their own emotions. They avoid situations that might make them feel rejected, embarrassed, disappointed, or uncomfortable. This emotional avoidance actually increases emotional sensitivity and decreases emotional resilience. The more you avoid feeling certain emotions, the more power those emotions have over you. The more you run from discomfort, the more uncomfortable becomes the very idea of discomfort. Emotional courage means being willing to feel fear without being paralyzed by it. To experience rejection without being devastated by it. To face uncertainty without being overwhelmed by it. And to handle disappointment without being defeated by it. Pillar 4. Contribution confidence. This is confidence that comes from knowing that you have something valuable to offer the world, that your existence makes a positive difference, and that you're capable of creating value for others. It's the deep satisfaction that comes from purpose, meaning, and service. Most people lack contribution confidence because they're focused entirely on what they can get rather than what they can give. They're consumed with their own needs, problems, and desires without considering how they can help others, solve problems, or create value. This self-centered focus actually undermines confidence because it makes you dependent on external circumstances for validation and satisfaction. Contribution confidence is built through what I call value creation obsession. Becoming relentlessly focused on how you can help others, solve problems, and make the world better in some way. It's about shifting from a mindset of what can I get to what can I give, from how can I be served to how can I serve. This shift transforms everything about how you approach life, relationships, and opportunities. Instead of going into situations worried about whether you'll be accepted, you go in focused on how you can contribute. Instead of being anxious about whether you'll get what you want, you're excited about whether you can give what others need. People with strong contribution confidence have what psychologists call pro-social purpose. They are motivated by making a positive impact on others rather than just advancing their own interests. This creates a different kind of confidence that comes from knowing your life has meaning beyond your own immediate needs and desires. But contribution confidence also requires developing what I call impact awareness. Understanding the specific ways you can create value and being intentional about developing those capabilities. This means identifying your unique strengths, talents, and perspectives. Then systematically developing them to the point where you can make a meaningful difference. The most confident people are those who know exactly how they can help others and are constantly looking for opportunities to do so. They don't wonder if they have value. They know they have value because they're constantly creating it. They don't question their worth. They demonstrate their worth through their contributions. These 4 pillars work synergistically to create unstoppable confidence. Competence. Confidence gives you the skills to succeed. Character confidence gives you the integrity to succeed sustainably. Courage. Confidence gives you the resilience to succeed despite obstacles. Contribution. Confidence gives you the purpose to succeed meaningfully. When all 4 pillars are strong, you become unstoppable because your confidence is based on internal reality rather than external circumstances. You don't need other people's approval because you have your own approval. You don't need perfect conditions because you trust your ability to handle imperfect conditions. You don't need guarantees because you have confidence in your ability to create results regardless of what happens. But building these pillars requires more than understanding. It requires systematic development through specific practices and conscious choices. You need to know exactly how to develop each pillar and how to integrate them into a unified foundation of unshakable confidence. Chapter 7. The Discipline Revolution. From motivation addiction to automatic success. Most people have a discipline problem, but what they really have is a motivation addiction. They believe they need to feel inspired to take action. They tell themselves they'll start working out when they feel ready. They'll work on their business when they're in the right mood. They'll wake up early when they have more energy. And that's exactly why they never succeed. Motivation is temporary. It comes in waves. One day you feel like you can take on the world, and the next you don't even want to get out of bed. If your success depends on feeling inspired, you are doomed to fail. The truth is, the people who achieve extraordinary things don't rely on motivation at all. They operate on discipline, the ability to do what they said they would do, whether they feel like it or not. Think about it. The best athletes don't skip training just because they don't feel like it. The most successful entrepreneurs don't stop working on their businesses because they're not in the mood. They show up every single day regardless of how they feel, because they understand that success is a result of consistency, not emotions. If you've been waiting for motivation to hit before taking action, you've been playing the wrong game. The real secret is to remove emotions from the equation entirely. Success is a habit, not a mood. And habits are built through discipline, not feelings. But here's what most people don't understand. Discipline is not about forcing yourself to do things you hate. It's not about willpower and suffering and grinding through misery. Real discipline is about rewiring your brain to love the process of improvement so much that taking action becomes automatic, natural, and even enjoyable. Most people view discipline as something painful, something they have to do, and that's exactly why they resist it. But what if I told you that you can train your brain to crave discipline? That instead of avoiding hard work, you can actually become addicted to it. Your brain is designed to seek reward and avoid pain. Right now, every time you procrastinate, skip a workout, or indulge in distractions, your brain rewards you with a little hit of dopamine. That's why it feels so good to scroll social media instead of working on your goals. But the problem is, your brain is rewarding you for the wrong things. To develop unbreakable discipline, you need to reprogram your reward system. You need to start associating pain with laziness and pleasure with discipline. Here's how you do it. Use the immediate consequence trick. Your brain only takes action when it feels an immediate consequence. Right now, skipping a workout doesn't feel like a big deal. But if you linked skipping a workout to a painful consequence, like giving $100 to a friend every time you missed a session, you would suddenly feel motivated to show up. Create a system where failing to be disciplined all costs you something. Reframe discomfort as a sign of growth. Instead of dreading hard work, start seeing it as proof that you're leveling up. Every time something feels difficult, remind yourself, this is what growth feels like. This is how I separate myself from the average. When you start linking discomfort to progress, discipline becomes a game instead of a burden. Celebrate discipline, not just results. Most people only reward themselves when they hit a big goal. But to make discipline addictive, you need to celebrate the act of showing up, not just the outcome. Every time you follow through on a commitment, recognize that you just became more powerful. Build an identity around being someone who always follows through. If you apply these mindset shifts, discipline stops feeling like a chore and starts feeling like power. And when that happens, you become unstoppable. But individual acts of discipline are not enough. The most disciplined people in the world don't rely on willpower alone. They have systems that make discipline automatic. If you want to guarantee that you follow through on your goals every single time, you need to build a system that removes decision M, eliminates distractions, and makes success inevitable. First, eliminate decision fatigue. Every time you have to decide whether or not to take action, you create an opportunity for excuses. The solution is to remove decision M entirely. Set up your workouts. Work hours or study sessions at the same time every day. Make it a rule, not a choice. Second, use the 5-INUT rule. The hardest part of any task is starting. Trick your brain by committing to just 5 minutes of action. Once you start, momentum will take over and you'll keep going. Third, create a no negotiation policy. The most disciplined people have rules they never break. Decide in advance what you will always do, whether you feel like it or not. Make it a non-negotiable. For example, I never skip 2 days in a row. I always wake up at 6 a.m. I always do what I say I'll do. Fourth, set up accountability triggers. If no one is watching, it's easy to slack off. Find a system that forces you to stay on track. This could be a coach, a friend who checks in on you, or even a public commitment that puts your reputation on the line. If you implement these systems, you will no longer have to force yourself to be disciplined. It will become automatic. At the end of the day, your success will not be determined by how motivated you feel. It will be determined by how disciplined you are. If you are willing to do what others won't, if you are willing to show up every single day no matter what, you will achieve things that 99% of people never will. The question is, will you commit to discipline or will you stay stuck in the cycle of inconsistency? The choice is yours. But know this, your future depends on it. But discipline alone is not enough. You can be the most disciplined person in the world, but if you're not taking the right actions, if you're not executing at the level required to win, you'll just be very consistent at producing mediocre results. This is why you need to understand the difference between being busy and being productive, between working hard and working smart, between taking action and taking the right action. Chapter 8. The Execution Machine. How to take massive action and achieve in months. What others take years to do. You set goals. You plan. You think about what you want. But let me ask you, how much of what you planned actually got done? How much closer are you to your dream today than you were 6 months ago, a year ago? If the answer is not much, there's a reason. It's not because you're not smart enough. It's not because you don't want it badly enough. It's because you're not executing at the level required to win. The biggest lie most people tell themselves is that they are working hard. But if you zoom in, what they are really doing is thinking about working hard. Making lists, reading books, watching videos, getting lost in endless research, all while avoiding the one thing that actually creates results: relentless execution. Think about the people who achieve insane levels of success. The entrepreneurs who build million-dollar businesses from scratch, the athletes who dominate their sport, the artists who seem to pump out masterpiece after masterpiece. Do you really think they have some secret advantage you don't have? The truth is they just execute at a level that 99% of people won't. They don't waste time. They don't overthink. They don't wait until everything is perfect. They take massive, relentless action over and over and over again until they succeed. This is going to change the way you approach action forever. If you've been stuck in a cycle of procrastination, if you've been busy but not productive, if you've been working hard but seeing no real progress, then what you need isn't more knowledge. What you need is a system for execution. A way to take insane levels of action so consistently that results become inevitable. The first deadly trap that keeps you stuck in inaction is the learning loop. You tell yourself that before you start, you need to learn more. So you read another book, watch another tutorial, take another course. And while education is important, the problem is you never actually move to execution. You keep gathering information, waiting for the moment when you feel ready. But that moment never comes. The only real learning happens through action. Stop consuming. Start executing. The second trap is the perfectionist delay. You convince yourself that you can't start yet because it's not perfect. You want to launch your business, but your website isn't ready. You want to start posting content, but your videos aren't professional enough. You wait and tweak and polish, never realizing that perfect is the enemy of done. Nothing will ever be perfect. The fastest way to succeed is to start messy and improve along the way. The third trap is the distraction addiction. You tell yourself you'll work after you check your phone real quick. Then suddenly 30 minutes are gone. You sit down to focus, but your brain craves another hit of dopamine. So you check email, scroll social media, watch just one more video. Before you know it, the entire day has slipped away. Your attention is being hijacked. And without focus, execution is impossible. If you don't control your environment will control you. If you recognize yourself in any of these traps, don't panic. You're not alone. But now you have no excuse. Awareness is the first step. And now it's time to break free. The highest achievers don't wait for motivation. They don't rely on willpower. They have a system, a structure that guarantees execution no matter what. If you want to operate at peak productivity, follow this system step by step and you will be blown away by how much you accomplish. Step 1. Ruthless prioritization. Not all tasks are created equal. The secret to relentless execution isn't doing more. It's doing the right things with insane focus. Most people waste 80% of their time on tasks that don't actually move the needle. Instead, use the 80-20 rule. Identify the 20% of actions that will generate 80% of your results. Eliminate or delegate everything else. Attack those high-impact actions with obsessive focus. Every morning, ask yourself, if I could only complete one thing today, what would create the biggest impact on my goals? Then do that thing first before anything else with complete focus and intensity. Step 2. Time blocking mastery. Most people live in reactive mode, responding to whatever seems urgent in the moment. This is a recipe for mediocrity. Winners live in proactive mode, controlling their time instead of letting time control them. Time blocking means scheduling specific blocks of time for specific activities and treating those blocks as sacred. During a work block, you only work. During a learning block, you only learn. During a health block, you only focus on fitness and nutrition. No multitasking, no distractions, no exceptions. This level of focus will feel uncomfortable at first because your brain is addicted to distraction, but the results will be extraordinary. Step 3. The execution sprint method. Instead of trying to maintain high performance all day, work in focused sprints with planned recovery. The human brain can only sustain peak focus for limited periods, usually 90 minutes to 2 hours. Structure your day in execution sprints. 90 minutes of intense focused work followed by 15 to 30 minutes of recovery. During work sprints, you are completely focused on high-impact actions. During recovery periods, you rest, recharge, and prepare for the next sprint. This approach allows you to work at maximum intensity without burning out to maintain peak performance throughout the day instead of slowly declining from morning to evening. Step 4. The daily execution ritual. Create a morning routine that primes your brain for execution. This isn't about meditation or journaling, although those can be valuable. This is about preparing your mind and body for peak performance. Your execution ritual should include reviewing your priorities for the day, visualizing successful completion of your most important tasks, eliminating potential distractions, and setting clear intentions for how you want to show up. The most successful people start every day the same way with the same routine, creating the same mental state that produces consistent results. Step 5. Progress tracking and iteration. You can't manage what you don't measure. Track your execution daily. How many high-impact actions did you complete? How much time did you spend in focused work? What obstacles prevented optimal performance? At the end of each day, ask what worked well today. What could be improved tomorrow? What will I do differently? This creates a feedback loop that allows you to continuously optimize your execution system. But execution is not just about working harder. It's about working smarter. The most successful people don't just take more action. They take better action. They understand leverage, focus, and strategic thinking. They know how to multiply their results without multiplying their effort. Step 6. Leverage multiplication. Look for ways to create exponential results with the same amount of effort. This could mean building systems that automate repetitive tasks, delegating or outsourcing low value work so you can focus on high-impact activities, learning high-leverage skills like sales, leadership, or coding that create disproportionate value. If you continue thinking in terms of direct effort, if I want to make more money, I need to work longer hours, you will always be limited by time. But if you shift to leverage-based thinking, your potential becomes limitless. Step 7. Energy management over time management. Most people focus on managing their time, but winners focus on managing their energy. You can have all the time in the world, but if you don't have energy, you won't execute at a high level. This means optimizing your sleep, nutrition, and exercise not as separate goals, but as foundational elements that fuel your execution. It means understanding your natural energy rhythms and scheduling your most important work during your peak energy periods. It means protecting your mental energy by eliminating energy drains, toxic relationships, negative environments, low-value activities that deplete rather than energize you. Step 8. The compound execution effect. Understand that massive results come from consistent execution over time, not from sporadic bursts of activity. Every day you execute at a high level, you build momentum. Every day you don't, you lose momentum. The most successful people are not necessarily more talented or more intelligent. They are more consistent. They show up every day. They execute every day. They improve every day. And over time, this consistency compounds into extraordinary results. This is the execution machine, a systematic approach to taking massive action that makes results inevitable rather than accidental. When you implement this system, you don't hope for success. You engineer it. You don't wait for motivation. You create momentum. You don't depend on circumstances. You create circumstances. But even with perfect execution, success requires one more critical element: the ability to persist when things get difficult, when progress slows down, when obstacles multiply, and when everyone else would quit. You need unbreakable mental resilience. Chapter 9. Building unstoppable mental resilience. Life will test you. It will knock you down, disappoint you, frustrate you, and challenge you in ways you never expected. The question is not whether you will face adversity. The question is whether you will develop the mental resilience to turn that adversity into advantage. Mental resilience is not about avoiding problems or pretending everything is fine when it's not. Mental resilience is about developing the internal strength to handle whatever life throws at you while maintaining your focus, your confidence, and your commitment to your goals. Most people crumble when faced with significant challenges. They give up when things get hard, make excuses when obstacles appear, and abandon their dreams when progress slows down. But the most successful people in the world have developed something different: unbreakable mental resilience that allows them to not just survive difficulties, but to thrive because of them. This level of mental resilience is not a personality trait you're born with. It's not genetic luck. It's a trained skill that can be developed through specific practices and conscious choices. And once you develop this skill, you become virtually unstoppable because external circumstances lose their power to control your internal state. The foundation of mental resilience is what I call emotional sovereignty. The ability to choose your emotional response regardless of external circumstances. Most people are emotional slaves. Their feelings are determined by what happens to them, by what other people say or do, by whether things go according to plan. When something good happens, they feel good. When something bad happens, they feel bad. Their emotional state is completely dependent on factors outside their control, which means they're constantly at the mercy of circumstances, other people, and random events. But mentally resilient people have developed emotional sovereignty. They understand that while they cannot control what happens to them, they can always control how they respond to what happens to them. They know that their emotional state is a choice, not a consequence. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending to feel differently than you actually feel. It means understanding that you have the power to choose which emotions you focus on, which emotions you amplify, and which emotions you allow to drive your decisions. When something disappointing happens, an emotionally sovereign person allows themselves to feel the disappointment without being controlled by it. They acknowledge the emotion, process it, learn from it, and then consciously choose a more empowering emotional state that serves their goals. The first step to developing emotional sovereignty is understanding the difference between feeling emotions and being emotions. When you say "I am angry" or "I am depressed," you're identifying yourself with the emotion, making it part of your identity. But when you say "I feel angry" or "I notice depression," you're creating distance between yourself and the emotion, recognizing it as a temporary experience rather than a permanent state. This linguistic shift creates psychological space that allows you to choose your response instead of automatically reacting. It reminds you that emotions are information, not instructions. They tell you something about your current state, but they don't have to determine your next action. The second component of mental resilience is what I call adversity reframing. The ability to find opportunity, growth, and advantage in every challenge you face. This is not about positive thinking or pretending that bad things are actually good. This is about training your brain to look for the hidden benefits in every difficult situation. Mentally resilient people have developed the habit of asking empowering questions when faced with adversity. What can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? What opportunities might be hidden in this challenge? How can I use this experience to help others? What would I need to believe about this situation to feel excited instead of defeated? These questions don't change the facts of the situation, but they completely change how your brain processes those facts. Instead of seeing problems as threats, you start seeing them as training. Instead of viewing setbacks as evidence of failure, you begin viewing them as feedback for improvement. This mental reframing is based on a fundamental truth that most people don't understand. Every adversity contains within it the seed of equivalent or greater benefit. Every challenge forces you to develop new capabilities. Every obstacle teaches you something valuable. Every setback provides information that can help you succeed. But you only access these benefits if you train your brain to look for them. Most people are so focused on what they're losing, what's going wrong, or how unfair the situation is that they completely miss the growth opportunities that adversity provides. The third element of mental resilience is persistence programming. The ability to maintain effort and commitment over extended periods, especially when progress is slow, results are delayed, or obstacles multiply. Most people quit too soon. They give up right before the breakthrough, abandon their goals just before the tipping point, and stop trying just before success becomes inevitable. This happens because they don't understand how success actually works. Success is not linear. It doesn't happen gradually and predictably. Success happens in bursts, in breakthroughs, in sudden leaps forward after long periods of apparently slow progress. Most of the work happens behind the scenes beneath the surface in ways that aren't immediately visible. Think about how a bamboo plant grows. For the first 4 years, you see almost nothing. The plant appears to be doing nothing, growing maybe a few inches, but in the 5th year, it grows 90 feet in 6 weeks. Was the plant doing nothing for 4 years? Number. It was developing an extensive root system that could support explosive growth. Success works the same way. You might work for months or even years without seeing dramatic results, but you're developing the foundation, the skills, the relationships, the systems that will support explosive growth when the time is right. Persistence programming means understanding this principle and committing to long-term effort regardless of short-term results. It means staying committed to your goals, not because of what you can see, but because of what you believe is possible. It means continuing to take action, not because progress is obvious, but because progress is inevitable if you don't quit. The most successful people have developed what I call delayed gratification mastery. The ability to sacrifice immediate pleasure for long-term gain, to invest in activities that don't pay off immediately but compound over time, to stay focused on long-term vision when short-term circumstances are discouraging. This requires training your brain to value future rewards more than immediate rewards. To find satisfaction in the process rather than just the outcome, to derive motivation from commitment rather than just feelings. The fourth component of mental resilience is failure immunity. The ability to attempt, fail, learn, and try again without being emotionally devastated or mentally discouraged. Most people are terrified of failure because they interpret failure as evidence of personal inadequacy, proof that they're not good enough, or confirmation that success isn't meant for them. But mentally resilient people have a completely different relationship with failure. They understand that failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is a component of success. They know that every successful person has failed more than unsuccessful people have even tried. Failure immunity is developed by redefining what failure means. Instead of seeing failure as proof of inadequacy, start seeing it as evidence that you're attempting something worthwhile. Instead of interpreting failure as permanent, start viewing it as temporary feedback. Instead of believing failure reflects your identity, start understanding that failure reflects your current skill level, which can always be improved. The most successful people fail fast, fail often, and fail forward. They attempt difficult things knowing they might not work, but they learn from every attempt and use that learning to improve their next attempt. They understand that the fastest way to succeed is to accelerate the learning process. And the fastest way to learn is to get feedback from real-world attempts even when those attempts don't produce the desired results. This creates what psychologists call anti-fragility, the ability to become stronger from stress rather than weaker. Instead of being broken by challenges, anti-fragile people are strengthened by them. Instead of being discouraged by setbacks, they're motivated by them. Instead of being defeated by obstacles, they are trained by them. The fifth element of mental resilience is support system architecture. The deliberate creation of relationships, environments, and resources that reinforce your resilience during difficult times. Mental resilience is not just an individual capability. It's also a social and environmental one. The people you spend time with, the environments you frequent, the content you consume, and the activities you engage in either strengthen your resilience or weaken it. Mentally resilient people are intentional about surrounding themselves with influences that support their mental strength. This means building relationships with people who believe in your potential even when you doubt yourself, who encourage your growth even when progress is slow, who challenge you to stay committed even when you want to quit. It means creating environments that remind you of your goals, your values, and your capabilities. It means consuming content that strengthens your mindset rather than content that weakens it. But support system architecture goes beyond just positive influences. It also means having practical resources available during difficult times, mentors you can call for guidance, friends you can rely on for encouragement, systems you can use for stress management, and strategies you can implement for emotional regulation. The sixth component is meaning-making mastery. The ability to create purpose and significance from any experience, especially difficult ones. Humans can endure almost any suffering if they can find meaning in it. But they struggle with even minor discomforts if those discomforts seem pointless. Mentally resilient people have developed the ability to create meaning from their experiences regardless of the circumstances. They understand that meaning is not found in experiences. Meaning is created through interpretation. The same experience can be meaningful or meaningless depending on how you choose to interpret it. This requires developing what Viktor Frankl called the last of human freedoms. The ability to choose your attitude in any circumstance. Even when you cannot control what happens to you, you can always control what you make it mean. Even when you cannot change your circumstances, you can always change your relationship to your circumstances. Meaning-making mastery involves connecting your current challenges to your larger purpose. Viewing your struggles as training for your mission and interpreting your difficulties as preparation for your destiny. When you can find purpose in your pain, significance in your struggles, and meaning in your challenges, you become emotionally invincible. The seventh element of mental resilience is recovery rituals, systematic practices for bouncing back from setbacks, managing stress, and maintaining psychological equilibrium during challenging periods. Mental resilience is not about being unaffected by difficulties. It's about recovering quickly and completely from difficulties. This requires having specific practices for emotional regulation, stress management, and mental recovery. These might include physical practices like exercise, meditation, or breathing techniques. Cognitive practices like journaling, visualization, or positive self-talk. Social practices like talking with trusted friends, seeking mentorship, or participating in supportive communities. The key is having these practices established before you need them, making them habitual rather than emergency measures and using them consistently rather than sporadically. Mental resilience is like physical fitness. It must be maintained through regular practice, not just developed during times of need. The eighth and final component is growth identity integration, making resilience and growth a core part of who you are rather than just something you do. When your identity includes being someone who grows from challenges, learns from setbacks, and becomes stronger through adversity, you automatically respond to difficulties in ways that build rather than diminish your capabilities. This identity shift changes everything about how you approach challenges. Instead of asking "Why is this happening to me?" you ask "How is this helping me grow?" Instead of wondering "When will this end?" you wonder "What will I become because of this?" Instead of hoping "I hope I can handle this," you know, "I will definitely grow from this." When mental resilience becomes part of your identity rather than just a skill you use, you become truly unstoppable. External circumstances lose their power to diminish you. Because every circumstance becomes an opportunity for growth. Challenges become exciting rather than threatening because you know they're making you stronger. This level of mental resilience transforms not just how you handle difficulties, but how you approach your entire life. You become willing to attempt bigger goals because you're confident in your ability to handle any obstacles. You become more willing to take risks because you trust your capacity to recover from setbacks. You become more ambitious because you know that challenges will make you stronger rather than break you. But mental resilience alone is not enough to create extraordinary success. You also need to master the skill that multiplies all other skills. The capability that accelerates all other capabilities. The one thing that can transform any area of your life faster than anything else. The ability to learn and grow at an accelerated pace. Chapter 10. The Rapid Learning Revolution. How to master any skill 10 times faster. In today's world, your ability to learn faster than your competition is your greatest competitive advantage. The skills that got you where you are today will not get you where you want to go tomorrow. The knowledge that was valuable yesterday might be obsolete today. The strategies that worked last year might fail this year. But while most people see this as a problem, winners see it as an opportunity. They understand that in a rapidly changing world, the people who can learn, adapt, and grow the fastest will dominate. They know that the future belongs to the learners, not just the learned. The question is, are you learning at the speed of change or is change outpacing your learning? Are you growing fast enough to stay ahead? Or are you falling behind while hoping your current skills will always be enough? Most people learn accidentally, randomly, and inefficiently. They learn whatever they happen to encounter, whenever they happen to encounter it, however they happen to encounter it. This passive approach to learning guarantees that you'll always be behind, always struggling to catch up, always feeling overwhelmed by how much you don't know. But there's a different way. There's a systematic approach to learning that can help you master any skill 10 times faster than traditional methods. It's based on cognitive science, neuroscience, and the practices of the world's fastest learners. And once you master this approach, You become virtually unstoppable because you can rapidly develop any capability you need to achieve any goal you set. The foundation of rapid learning is understanding how your brain actually acquires, processes, and integrates new information. Most people learn based on outdated models of how learning works. They think learning is about memorizing information, repeating facts, and hoping knowledge somehow becomes skill. But modern neuroscience reveals that learning is about building neural networks, strengthening connections between concepts, and integrating new information with existing knowledge. Real learning happens when your brain creates new pathways and patterns, not when it stores isolated facts. This means that the fastest way to learn is not to consume more information, but to process information more effectively. It's not about studying longer, but about studying smarter. It's not about reading more books, but about implementing more concepts. The first principle of rapid learning is active processing. Engaging with information in ways that force your brain to work with it rather than just passively receive it. Most people learn passively. They read, listen, or watch without actively engaging their minds. This creates the illusion of learning without actual learning. Active processing means constantly asking questions, making connections, testing, understanding, and applying concepts. Instead of just reading about a topic, you summarize it in your own words. Explain it to someone else. Create examples. Identify patterns and look for ways to use it immediately. When you actively process information, you force your brain to work harder, which strengthens neural pathways and increases retention. You also identify gaps in understanding that passive consumption would miss, allowing you to focus additional attention on areas that need work. The second principle is deliberate practice. Focusing your practice time on the specific aspects of a skill that are most challenging and most important for improvement. Most people practice by doing what they're already good at, what feels comfortable, and what produces immediate success. But deliberate practice means intentionally working on your weaknesses, pushing beyond your comfort zone, and focusing on elements that are difficult but critical for advancement. This approach accelerates learning because it forces continuous improvement rather than comfortable repetition. Deliberate practice requires identifying the specific subskills that comprise overall mastery, determining which subskills are most important for your goals, assessing your current level in each subskill, and focusing intensive practice on the areas where improvement will have the greatest impact. The third principle is spaced repetition. Reviewing and practicing information at increasing intervals to maximize long-term retention. Most people learn something once and expect to remember it forever. Or they cram information intensively and wonder why they forget it quickly. But the brain is designed to forget information that doesn't seem important. And importance is determined by frequency of use. Spaced repetition tricks your brain into thinking information is important by exposing you to it repeatedly over extended periods. The optimal spacing pattern starts with frequent reviews and gradually increases the intervals. Review new information after 1 day, then 3 days, then 1 week, then 2 weeks, then 1 month, then 3 months. This pattern maximizes retention while minimizing time investment. The fourth principle is interval. Mixing different types of practice or different topics within the same learning session. Most people learn by focusing on one topic or skill at a time until they feel comfortable, then moving to the next topic. But interval or mixing different elements together forces your brain to work harder to distinguish between concepts, identify patterns, and make connections. This creates deeper understanding and better transfer of learning to new situations. For example, instead of practicing one math concept for an hour, you might practice 4 different concepts for 15 minutes each. Instead of learning one language skill at a time, you might mix vocabulary, grammar, listening, and speaking within each study session. The fifth principle is elaborative interrogation. Constantly asking why and how questions to deepen understanding and create more connections between concepts. Most people accept information at face value without questioning the underlying logic, connections, or applications. But asking questions like, why is this true? How does this connect to what I already know? When would this be most useful? And what are the implications of this? Forces your brain to build richer, more connected knowledge networks. This questioning process transforms isolated facts into integrated understanding, making information more memorable and more useful for solving problems or creating solutions. The sixth principle is dual coding, engaging both verbal and visual processing systems to maximize learning effectiveness. Most people learn primarily through reading or listening, engaging only their verbal processing system. But your brain has separate systems for processing verbal and visual information. And when both systems are engaged simultaneously, learning is dramatically enhanced. This means supplementing reading with diagrams, images, videos, or hands-on activities that engage multiple senses. Creating visual representations of verbal information such as mind maps, flowcharts or diagrams forces you to process information in multiple ways and creates additional retrieval pathways in your memory. The seventh principle is testing effect using retrieval practice rather than just review to strengthen memory and understanding. Most people study by rereading notes, highlighting text, or reviewing materials. But these passive review methods create familiarity without understanding and recognition without recall. The testing effect shows that actively retrieving information from memory even when you're not sure you know it strengthens memory far more than passive review. This means using flashcards, practice tests, self-quizzing or explaining concepts without looking at notes. Testing doesn't just measure learning. Testing creates learning. The act of trying to remember strengthens neural pathways and reveals gaps in knowledge that need additional attention. The eighth principle is application acceleration, immediately applying new knowledge in real-world contexts rather than waiting until you feel fully prepared. Most people learn in isolation from application, studying concepts without using them, preparing extensively before attempting implementation. But rapid learners understand that application accelerates learning because it provides immediate feedback, reveals practical challenges, and creates emotional engagement that strengthens memory. They look for ways to use new knowledge immediately, even if they're not yet experts. This might mean starting a project before you feel ready, attempting to teach concepts before you've mastered them, or finding ways to practice new skills in low-stakes environments where mistakes are acceptable and learning is expected. The ninth principle is metalearning. Learning how to learn more effectively by understanding your own learning process, identifying your learning strengths and weaknesses, and continuously optimizing your learning strategies. Metalearning means paying attention to which learning methods work best for you, which environments support your learning most effectively, what times of day you learn most efficiently, and how different topics require different learning approaches. This self-awareness allows you to customize your learning process for maximum effectiveness rather than using one-size-fits-all approaches that might not match your individual learning style or the specific demands of what you're trying to learn. The 10th and final principle is teaching mindset, approaching everything you learn with the intention of eventually teaching it to others. This mindset transforms how you engage with information because teaching requires deeper understanding than just personal use. When you know you'll need to explain concepts clearly, answer questions, and help others understand, you automatically engage more deeply with the material. You pay attention to logical structure, look for clear examples, anticipate confusion points, and test your own understanding more rigorously. Even if you never actually teach, approaching learning with a teaching mindset forces you to process information more thoroughly and develop more complete understanding. These 10 principles work synergistically to create rapid learning that far exceeds traditional methods. When you combine active processing with deliberate practice, spaced repetition with interval, elaborative interrogation with dual coding, testing effects with application acceleration, and metalearning with teaching mindset, you create a learning system that can help you master virtually any skill in a fraction of the time most people require. But rapid learning is not just about acquiring knowledge faster. It's about transforming knowledge into wisdom, skills into mastery, and learning into lasting change. The ultimate goal is not just to know more, but to become more. Not just to learn faster, but to grow deeper. When you master rapid learning, you gain confidence that you can develop any capability you need to achieve any goal you set. You stop being intimidated by new challenges because you know you can quickly develop the skills to handle them. You become excited by change because you know you can adapt faster than change happens. This transforms your entire relationship with growth, challenges and possibilities. You stop seeing limitations as permanent and start seeing them as temporary. You stop avoiding difficult goals and start pursuing them. You stop hoping you have what it takes and start knowing you can develop what it takes. But even with rapid learning abilities, success requires one more critical element: the power to influence, persuade, and lead others. Because in a connected world, your success depends not just on what you can do alone, but on what you can inspire others to do with you. Chapter 11. The Influence Equation. How to get anyone to say yes. Your success in life is directly proportional to your ability to influence others. Everything you want, better relationships, career advancement, business growth, social impact, personal goals, requires other people to think, feel, or act differently than they currently do. You need your boss to recognize your value and promote you. You need customers to choose your product over competitors. You need your spouse to support your goals and dreams. You need your children to make good decisions. You need investors to fund your ideas. You need partners to collaborate with you. You need mentors to guide you. You need friends to encourage you. In every case, you need influence. The ability to ethically guide others toward decisions and actions that benefit both you and them. Without influence, you're limited to what you can achieve alone. With influence, you can multiply your impact through other people's efforts, resources, and capabilities. But most people are terrible at influence. They try to get what they want through force, manipulation, or desperation. They argue when they should listen, talk when they should ask, and push when they should pull. They focus on what they want rather than what others need, on their own interests rather than mutual benefits. This approach doesn't just fail to create influence. It actually destroys it. People resist being forced, manipulated, or pressured. They rebel against obvious attempts to control them. They say no to people who seem selfish, pushy, or manipulative. But there's a better way. There's a science to ethical influence that allows you to help others make decisions that benefit both of you. It's based on understanding human psychology, emotional needs, and decision-making processes. And when you master this science, you become incredibly effective at helping others say yes to opportunities that serve everyone involved. The foundation of influence is understanding that people don't make decisions based on logic alone. They make decisions based on emotions and then use logic to justify those decisions. This means that effective influence requires both emotional engagement and logical justification. Most people try to influence through logic alone, presenting facts, statistics, features, and benefits. But logic doesn't create desire. Emotion does. Logic doesn't inspire action. Emotion does. Logic doesn't change behavior. Emotion does. This doesn't mean manipulating emotions or being dishonest. It means understanding that humans are emotional beings who use logic to make sense of their emotional responses. Effective influence means engaging both the emotional and logical systems in ways that lead to mutually beneficial decisions. The first principle of ethical influence is reciprocal value creation. Always looking for ways to provide value before asking for anything in return. Most people approach influence with a taking mindset. They want something from others and try to figure out how to get it. But influential people approach relationships with a giving mindset. They look for ways to help others achieve their goals, solve their problems, and improve their situation. This creates reciprocal obligation. When you help others get what they want, they naturally want to help you get what you want. Reciprocal value creation requires understanding what others truly want, not just what they say they want. This means asking questions. listening carefully, and paying attention to both stated needs and underlying motivations. People want to feel important, understood, appreciated, and valued. They want to make progress toward their goals. They want to solve their problems. They want to avoid pain and gain pleasure. They want to be right, to look good, and to feel smart. When you help them satisfy these deeper needs, they become much more receptive to your requests. The second principle is emotional resonance. Communicating in ways that create positive emotional responses rather than neutral or negative ones. This requires understanding how different communication styles affect others emotionally and choosing approaches that generate openness rather than resistance. Emotional resonance is created through several elements. Matching communication style to the other person's preferences. Using language that creates positive associations. Telling stories that generate desired emotions. Asking questions that lead to self-discovery. And presenting information in ways that make others feel smart rather than stupid. For example, instead of telling someone what they should do, ask questions that help them discover the right answer themselves. Instead of presenting your ideas as superior, position them as building on their existing insights. Instead of criticizing current approaches, acknowledge what's working while suggesting improvements. The third principle is social proof integration. Helping others see that their desired decision is consistent with what similar people are doing, what successful people recommend, or what experts suggest. Humans are social creatures who use others' behavior as a guide for their own decisions. Social proof is most effective when it comes from people the other person respects, admires, or identifies with. This might be industry leaders, successful peers, respected experts, or people in similar situations who have achieved desired results. But social proof must be authentic and relevant. False or exaggerated social proof destroys credibility and trust. The goal is to help others see that the decision you're suggesting is not unusual, risky, or stupid, but rather normal, safe, and smart. The fourth principle is authority positioning. Establishing yourself as a credible source of information and guidance without being arrogant or condescending. People are more likely to be influenced by those they perceive as knowledgeable, experienced, and trustworthy. Authority is built through demonstrated expertise, relevant experience, credible credentials, and consistent reliability. But true authority also includes humility, honesty about limitations, and genuine concern for others' best interests. This means sharing relevant experience without bragging, providing evidence for claims without overwhelming with data, acknowledging when you don't know something, and focusing on helping others make good decisions rather than proving how smart you are. The fifth principle is commitment consistency. Helping others make commitments that align with your desired outcome and then supporting them in staying consistent with those commitments. People have a strong psychological need to remain consistent with their previous statements and decisions. This principle works by getting others to verbalize agreement with principles, values, or goals that naturally lead to the decision you want them to make. For example, if you want someone to choose quality over price, first get them to agree that quality is important in this type of decision. But commitment consistency must be authentic. The goal is not to trick people into saying things they don't believe, but to help them clarify what they actually value and then make decisions consistent with those values. The sixth principle is scarcity communication. Helping others understand what they might lose by not acting or what opportunities might not be available later. People are more motivated by the fear of loss than by the possibility of gain. But scarcity must be real and relevant. False scarcity destroys trust and credibility. Real scarcity might be limited time availability, unique opportunities, restricted access, or competitive advantages that won't last forever. The key is helping others understand the true costs of inaction or delay without creating artificial pressure or urgency. The seventh principle is liking amplification. Increasing the degree to which others like, trust, and connect with you. People are much more likely to be influenced by those they like than by those they don't like, regardless of the quality of the ideas being presented. Liking is increased through genuine interest in others, finding common ground, providing sincere compliments, showing appreciation, and demonstrating that you understand and care about their perspective. This doesn't mean being fake or manipulative, but rather being genuinely interested in others as human beings, not just as means to achieve your goals. The eighth principle is choice architecture. Presenting options in ways that make your preferred choice seem most attractive without eliminating alternatives or being deceptive. The way choices are presented dramatically affects which options people select. This might involve the order in which options are presented, the way benefits and costs are framed, the context in which decisions are made, or the default options that are suggested. Choice architecture should be used ethically to help others make good decisions, not to manipulate them into bad ones. The ninth principle is emotional state management. Influencing when and how conversations happen to maximize the likelihood of positive outcomes. People make different decisions when they're in different emotional states. This means choosing appropriate times for important conversations, creating environments that support positive decision and helping others feel comfortable, confident, and optimistic during influence attempts. The 10th and final principle is long-term relationship focus. Prioritizing the quality of ongoing relationships over short-term gains. True influence is built over time through consistent demonstration of character, competence, and care for others' interests. This means sometimes accepting no for an answer, helping others make decisions that are truly in their best interests, even if those decisions don't immediately benefit you, and building trust through reliable behavior over extended periods. When you master these principles of ethical influence, you become incredibly effective at helping others make decisions that benefit everyone involved. You stop struggling to get what you want and start attracting opportunities, support, and collaboration. But influence is not just about getting others to say yes to your requests. It's about creating value for everyone involved, building relationships that last, and becoming the kind of person others want to help succeed. When you approach influence from this perspective, you become not just more effective but also more respected, more trusted, and more successful in every area of your life. However, even with great influence skills, extraordinary success requires one more critical capability: the ability to make excellent decisions under pressure, uncertainty, and complexity. Because your life is ultimately the sum of your decisions, and the quality of your decisions determines the quality of your results. Chapter 12. Decision Mastery. How to make perfect choices under pressure. Every moment of your life you are making decisions. What to focus on, what to ignore, what to say, what to do, where to go, how to respond. And every single one of these decisions is shaping your future, creating your reality, and determining your success. The most successful people in the world are not necessarily more talented, more intelligent, or more fortunate than everyone else. They are better decision makers. They consistently make choices that move them toward their goals, while others make choices that keep them stuck or moving in the wrong direction. But making excellent decisions is not easy, especially when you're under pressure, facing uncertainty, or dealing with complex situations where there's no obvious right answer. Most people make decisions based on emotions, impulses, limited information, or outdated mental models. They choose what feels comfortable rather than what creates results. What seems safe rather than what offers opportunity, what others expect rather than what serves their goals. This approach to decision guarantees mediocre results because excellence requires consistently choosing the harder path, the uncertain option, the choice that serves long-term goals over short-term comfort. The difference between winners and losers is not that winners always make perfect decisions. It's that winners have developed systematic approaches to decision that increase their odds of making good choices, and they make decisions faster with more confidence and with better long-term results. Decision mastery is the ability to consistently make high-quality choices regardless of external pressure, emotional state, or information availability. It's a learned skill that can be developed through understanding how decisions actually work and implementing systematic approaches that optimize decision quality. The foundation of decision mastery is understanding that most people make decisions backwards. They start with what they want, then look for reasons to justify that want, then convince themselves they're being logical and rational. But excellent decision makers start with clear criteria for what constitutes a good decision. Gather relevant information objectively. Consider multiple options systematically and choose based on which option best serves their long-term goals and values. This requires separating what you want from what you should choose, what feels good from what produces results, what seems right from what actually works. The first principle of decision mastery is values-based decision-making. Using your core values is the primary filter for evaluating options. Most people make decisions based on immediate circumstances, other people's expectations or emotional impulses. But values-based decision means first clarifying what you truly value. Then choosing options that align with and reinforce those values even when those choices are difficult, unpopular, or temporarily disadvantageous. This requires honest self-examination about what you actually value versus what you think you should value or what others expect you to value. Your true values are revealed not by what you say, but by what you consistently choose when faced with trade-offs. Values-based decision-making creates consistency across decisions and situations because you're using the same criteria regardless of external pressures. It also creates confidence because you know you're making decisions aligned with your authentic self rather than trying to please others or meet external expectations. The second principle is outcome visualization. Mentally experiencing the long-term consequences of different options before making a choice. Most people focus on immediate consequences while ignoring or underestimating long-term implications. But excellent decision makers develop the ability to project forward in time, imagining how different choices will affect their life, relationships, goals, and opportunities months or years in the future. This involves asking questions like, if I make this choice, where will I be in 1 year? How will this decision affect my relationships? What opportunities will this create or eliminate? What kind of person will this choice help me become? What will I regret more? Taking this risk or avoiding it? Outcome visualization helps you make decisions based on long-term consequences rather than short-term emotions or immediate convenience. The third principle is opportunity cost analysis. Explicitly considering what you're giving up when you choose one option over others. Every choice involves trade-offs, but most people focus only on what they're gaining while ignoring what they're sacrificing. Excellent decision makers ask, what else could I do with this time, energy, or resources? What opportunities am I closing off by choosing this path? What are the hidden costs of this choice? What might I regret not pursuing? This analysis often reveals that apparently attractive options become less appealing when you consider their full costs, while seemingly difficult options become more attractive when you consider their long-term benefits. The fourth principle is information optimization. Gathering enough information to make a good decision without getting trapped in endless analysis or paralyzed by uncertainty. Most people either make decisions with insufficient information or waste excessive time trying to achieve perfect certainty that never comes. Information optimization means identifying what information is truly necessary for a good decision. Gathering that information efficiently and making a choice once you have enough information to proceed confidently. This requires distinguishing between information that would be nice to have and information that's actually necessary. Setting deadlines for information gathering and accepting that some uncertainty is always present in important decisions. The fifth principle is emotional regulation. Making decisions from clear, calm mental states rather than being driven by temporary emotions like fear, anger, excitement, or desperation. Emotions provide valuable information, but they shouldn't control decision. This means recognizing when you're in a poor emotional state for decision and either waiting until you're calmer or using systematic processes to overcome emotional bias. Techniques for emotional regulation include taking time between feeling an emotion and making a decision, seeking outside perspectives from trusted advisors, using structured decision-making frameworks, and asking how you would advise someone else in the same situation. The sixth principle is reversibility assessment, distinguishing between reversible decisions that can be changed later and irreversible decisions that create permanent consequences. Many people treat all decisions as equally important and agonize over choices that don't actually matter much. Reversible decisions should be made quickly with minimal analysis because you can always adjust course later. Irreversible decisions deserve more time, analysis, and consultation because you have to live with the consequences permanently. This principle helps you allocate appropriate amounts of mental energy to different types of decisions and avoid perfectionism on choices that don't require it. The seventh principle is multiple option generation, creating several viable alternatives rather than just comparing the obvious choices. Most people limit themselves to binary thinking, yes or no, this or that, without considering creative alternatives that might be better than any of the obvious options. Excellent decision makers force themselves to generate multiple options, especially when the obvious choices all seem unsatisfactory. They ask, what other ways could I approach this? What would someone more creative do? What options am I not seeing? What would be possible if I had unlimited resources? This process often reveals solutions that combine the benefits of different approaches while avoiding their limitations. The eighth principle is devil's advocate analysis, systematically considering what could go wrong with your preferred choice and how you would handle those scenarios. Most people focus on why their preferred option will work while ignoring potential problems. But excellent decision makers deliberately look for holes in their reasoning, imagine worst-case scenarios, and plan for how they would respond if things don't go as expected. This doesn't mean becoming paralyzed by potential problems, but rather making more robust decisions by considering a full range of possibilities. The ninth principle is consultation strategy. Seeking input from others who have relevant experience, different perspectives or stakes in the outcome. Most people either make decisions in isolation or seek input from whoever happens to be available rather than strategically choosing advisors. Strategic consultation means identifying who has experience with similar decisions, who understands the context well, who will give honest feedback rather than just telling you what they think you want to hear, and who has demonstrated good judgment in their own decisions. The 10th principle is implementation planning, considering not just what decision to make, but how you will execute that decision effectively. Many good decisions fail because of poor implementation, and some mediocre decisions succeed because of excellent execution. This means asking, how will I actually implement this choice? What resources will I need? What obstacles might I encounter? What support will I require? How will I measure progress? What will I do if things don't go according to plan? Implementation planning often reveals that certain options are more difficult than they initially appeared, while other options are more feasible than expected. When you master these principles of Decision M, you become incredibly effective at navigating complex situations, uncertain environments, and high-pressure circumstances. You stop second-guessing yourself and start trusting your judgment. You stop avoiding difficult decisions and start making them confidently. But most importantly, you start creating a life that reflects your true values, serves your long-term goals, and moves you consistently toward the future you want to create. Because ultimately, your life is nothing more and nothing less than the cumulative result of every decision you make. And when you master the art of Decision M, you master the art of life design. However, even with perfect decision-making skills, extraordinary success requires one final element: the ability to persist when progress is slow, when obstacles multiply, and when everyone else would quit. You need to understand the true nature of success and how to maintain momentum even when results are delayed. Chapter 13. The 1% Rule. How small daily improvements create exponential growth. What if I told you that everything you've been taught about success is wrong? That the people who achieve the highest levels of greatness, the top 1% in business, sports, science, and creativity, don't get there through huge dramatic changes overnight. That the biggest transformations, the most mind-blowing achievements, and the seemingly superhuman skills are not the result of sudden breakthroughs or once-in-a-lifetime talent, but something much simpler. Most people believe that success comes from massive action, from taking huge leaps, from working harder than everyone else all at once. And while hard work is important, it's not the real reason why the best become the best. The truth is much more subtle. So subtle in fact that most people ignore it. The real secret to success is the 1% rule. The idea is simple. If you improve by just 1% every single day, the results over time will be exponential. That tiny effort, that small push, that slight improvement compounds, builds on itself, and before you know it, you're light years ahead of everyone else. But here's the problem. Most people never apply this rule. They look for shortcuts. They want immediate results. They get impatient. They do something for a few days, don't see progress, and quit. And that's why they fail. Because success isn't about what you do once. It's about what you do every single day without fail, even when nobody is watching. By the end of this chapter, you will understand exactly how to apply the 1% rule in your life. You will have a clear step-by-step process for using this principle to master any skill, build insane levels of discipline, and create unstoppable momentum toward your goals. If you commit to this, your life will never be the same. Why small daily improvements are more powerful than huge efforts. Most people fail at self-improvement because they think too big and too short-term. They believe success comes from extreme action, from 10-hour work days, from pushing themselves until they collapse. But that approach is unsustainable. Look at the people who set New Year's resolutions. They start off strong, hitting the gym every day, working on their goals obsessively, but within a few weeks, they burn out. Why? Because they relied on motivation instead of habits. They tried to do too much too soon instead of focusing on tiny consistent gains. Now compare that to someone who commits to just 1% improvement every day. Maybe on day 1 they only work out for 5 minutes. Maybe they read just 1 page of a book. Maybe they practice their skill for just 10 minutes. It doesn't seem like much, but the difference is that they do it every single day without fail. And here's where the magic happens. After 1 year, they are 37 times better than when they started. After 2 years, they are hundreds of times better. After 5 years, they are unrecognizable. This is the power of compounding improvement. The people who dominate their fields don't become great overnight. They build their skills little by little, day after day, until they reach a level that most people can't even comprehend. The lesson here: forget trying to change your life overnight. Instead, focus on small, consistent actions. The results will shock you. The science of compounding. Why tiny gains lead to massive success. To understand why the 1% rule works, let's look at how compounding functions in other areas of life. In finance, if you invest $100 and it grows by 1% every day, it doesn't just increase by $1 each day. Instead, the new amount gets 1% added to it as well, and then again the next day, and so on. Over time, this leads to exponential growth. What starts as small, barely noticeable changes suddenly explodes into huge gains. The same principle applies to your skills, knowledge, and habits. If you improve by 1% today, then 1% more tomorrow, and keep going, your abilities don't just grow, they multiply. What started as small gains compounds into exponential improvement. Why small gains beat big inconsistent efforts. Most people rely on random bursts of motivation. They work hard one day, then slack off the next. They cram study sessions instead of learning a little bit every day. They go on extreme diets instead of making small sustainable changes. And then they wonder why they never get long-term results. But the truth is, massive inconsistent action doesn't work. What works is relentless consistency. Reading 10 pages a day beats reading 100 pages once a month. Doing 10 push-ups every day beats going to the gym once a week. Writing 100 words daily beats waiting for inspiration to write an entire chapter. This is why the 1% rule is so powerful. It allows you to build unstoppable momentum without burning out. How to apply the 1% rule in your life. Step-by-step guide. Now, let's get practical. Here's exactly how to use the 1% rule to transform any area of your life. Step 1. Choose one area for improvement. The biggest mistake people make is trying to improve everything at once. They want to get fit, learn new skills, build a business, and improve relationships all simultaneously. This leads to overwhelm and failure. Instead, pick one specific area where 1% daily improvement will have the biggest impact on your life. This could be your health, your skills, your finances, your relationships, or your mindset. Focus all your improvement energy on this one area until it becomes automatic. Step 2. Define what 1% improvement looks like. 1% improvement must be specific and measurable. You can't improve something you can't define. If you want to improve your fitness, 1% might be doing one more push-up than yesterday or working out for 1 minute longer. If you want to improve your knowledge, 1% might be reading one more page than yesterday or learning one new fact. The key is making the improvement so small that it feels almost ridiculous not to do it. If your improvement feels difficult or overwhelming, it's too big. Make it smaller. Step 3. Track your progress daily. What gets measured gets managed. Create a simple tracking system where you record your daily improvement. This could be a journal, a spreadsheet, or a simple checklist. The active tracking creates accountability and helps you see your progress over time. Step 4. Never break the chain. Your goal is to improve every single day without exception. Some days you'll feel motivated and want to do more. That's fine. But don't make the mistake of trying to catch up for missed days by doing huge amounts. Consistency beats intensity every time. If you miss a day, don't try to make up for it by doing double the next day. Just get back on track immediately. The power is in the consistency, not in the size of individual efforts. Step 5. Trust the process. This is the hardest part because you won't see dramatic results immediately. 1% improvement is subtle. After 1 week, you'll barely notice a difference. After 1 month, the changes will still be small, but after 6 months, you'll start to see significant progress. After 1 year, the transformation will be undeniable. Most people quit during the first few months because they don't see instant results. But if you trust the math, if you believe in compounding, if you stay consistent, the results become inevitable. The compound effect in different areas of life. Let's look at how the 1% rule applies to specific areas. Health and fitness. Instead of trying to work out for 2 hours on day 1, commit to 5 minutes of exercise every day. Gradually increase by small amounts. After 1 year, you'll have built a sustainable exercise habit and seen significant improvements in your health. Learning and skills. Instead of trying to read an entire book in one sitting, commit to reading 1 page every day or practice a skill for just 10 minutes daily. The consistency will compound into mastery over time, business, and career. Instead of trying to completely overhaul your work performance overnight, focus on improving one small aspect of your job every day. This could be learning one new technique, making one more sales call, or improving one process. Finances. Instead of trying to save a huge amount of money all at once, commit to saving 1% more than yesterday or cutting one small expense daily. Over time, these small changes create significant financial improvements. Relationships. Instead of trying to completely transform your relationships overnight, commit to one small act of kindness, appreciation, or communication improvement every day. The key in every area is the same. Small, consistent, daily improvements that compound over time into extraordinary results. Why most people fail at the 1% rule. Even though the concept is simple, most people struggle to implement it successfully. Here are the biggest mistakes and how to avoid them. Mistake 1. Making improvements too big. If your daily improvement feels difficult or requires significant willpower, it's too big. The improvement should be so small that it's easier to do it than not to do it. Mistake 2. Trying to improve too many areas at once. Focus on one area until the improvement becomes automatic, then add another area. Mistake 3. Expecting immediate results. The 1% rule works through compounding, which means results start small and grow exponentially. Trust the process even when progress seems slow. Mistake 4. Breaking the chain and giving up. Missing one day isn't failure. Giving up is failure. If you miss a day, just get back on track immediately. Mistake 5. Not tracking progress. Without measurement, you can't see improvement and you lose motivation. Track your daily actions and celebrate small wins. The psychology of compound improvement. Understanding why the 1% rule works psychologically is crucial for long-term success. First, small improvements don't trigger resistance. Your brain resists big changes because they feel threatening and overwhelming, but tiny changes fly under the radar of your psychological defense systems. Second, small daily wins create positive momentum. Every time you complete your 1% improvement, you reinforce the identity of someone who follows through on commitments. This builds confidence and motivation that carries over to other areas of your life. Third, consistency builds neural pathways. The more often you repeat a behavior, the stronger the neural pathway becomes. Eventually, the improvement becomes automatic, requiring no willpower or conscious effort. Fourth, compound improvements create visible progress over time. While individual daily improvements are small, the cumulative effect becomes undeniable. This visible progress creates motivation to continue. The 1% rule for mindset transformation. The most powerful application of the 1% rule is transforming your mindset and mental habits. Instead of trying to completely change your thinking overnight, commit to catching one negative thought per day and replacing it with a positive one. Or practice gratitude for just one thing daily, or visualize success for just 1 minute each day. These small mental improvements compound into completely transformed thinking patterns over time. Your mindset becomes more positive, more resilient, and more focused on possibilities rather than problems. Advanced strategies for accelerating the 1% rule. Once you've mastered basic 1% improvement, you can accelerate your progress with these advanced strategies. Strategy 1. Compound across multiple dimensions. Instead of just improving quantity, also improve quality. For example, if you're reading 1 page per day, also focus on improving comprehension and retention. Strategy 2. Create improvement systems. Build systems that make 1% improvement automatic. This could be setting up your environment to support improvement, creating accountability partnerships, or designing rewards for consistency. Strategy 3. Stack improvements. Once one improvement becomes automatic, add another small improvement to the same routine. This creates compound improvements within the same time investment. Strategy 4. Focus on leverage points. Identify which improvements will have the biggest impact on your overall success and prioritize those areas. The lifetime impact of the 1% rule. When you truly embrace the 1% rule, it transforms more than just specific skills or habits. It changes your entire approach to life. You stop looking for quick fixes and start building sustainable systems. You stop being frustrated by slow progress and start trusting in compound growth. You stop comparing yourself to others and start focusing on your own continuous improvement. Most importantly, you develop what I call improvement identity. You become someone who gets a little bit better every day regardless of circumstances, emotions, or external pressures. This identity shift is the real power of the 1% rule. It's not just about achieving specific goals. It's about becoming the kind of person who continuously grows, adapts, and improves throughout their entire life. People with improvement identity never stop learning, never stop growing, and never stop challenging themselves. They understand that mastery is not a destination, but a journey, not an achievement, but a process. And because they're always improving, they're always moving ahead of the competition, always adapting to change, always becoming more valuable and more capable. The choice is yours. You can continue looking for shortcuts, hoping for breakthrough moments, and getting frustrated by slow progress. Or you can embrace the 1% rule, trust in compound improvement, and systematically build the life you want through consistent daily growth. But remember, the 1% rule only works if you work it. Knowledge without application is just entertainment. Understanding without implementation is just interesting information. Your transformation starts today with one small improvement that you commit to repeating every single day without fail. What will your 1% be? Conclusion: becoming unstoppable. You now possess something that 99% of people will never have. A complete blueprint for mental transformation. You understand how your brain works, how beliefs are formed, how habits are created, and how success is engineered. You know the difference between winner thinking and loser thinking. You have the tools to reprogram your subconscious, build unshakable confidence, develop iron discipline, and create unstoppable momentum. But knowledge alone changes nothing. Information without implementation is just entertainment. Everything you've learned in this video will remain theoretical until you take action. Right now, you're at a crossroads. You can close this video, go back to your normal routine, and let these insights fade into forgotten information. Or you can make a decision that changes everything. You can choose to become someone different, someone better, someone unstoppable. The choice is entirely yours. But understand this: the window of opportunity for transformation is small. Motivation is temporary. Inspiration fades. The excitement you feel right now will diminish if you don't take immediate action to convert it into concrete changes. Your brain is most open to new programming immediately after receiving new information. This is the moment when neural pathways are most flexible, when old patterns are most vulnerable, when new habits are most likely to take root. So here's what you're going to do right now before you do anything else. Choose one area of your life where you want to see transformation. Is it your confidence, your discipline, your mindset, your execution, your learning ability? Pick one specific area that, if improved, would have the biggest impact on your overall success. Define what 1% improvement looks like in that area. Make it specific, measurable, and so small that it would be ridiculous not to do it. If you chose confidence, 1% might be making one comment in a meeting, introducing yourself to one new person, or standing with better posture for 1 hour. If you chose discipline, 1% might be waking up 5 minutes earlier, doing one push-up, or working on your most important task for 10 minutes. Commit to that 1% improvement every single day for the next 30 days. Write it down, schedule it, track it, make it non-negotiable. But more importantly, understand what you're really committing to. You're not just committing to a small daily action. You're committing to becoming a different person. You're choosing to be someone who follows through on commitments, someone who prioritizes growth over comfort, someone who takes control of their life instead of being controlled by circumstances. Every time you complete your 1% improvement, you're not just getting a little bit better at something specific. You're reinforcing the identity of a winner. You're proving to yourself that you are someone who does what they say they'll do, regardless of how they feel. This identity shift is more valuable than any specific skill or achievement because identity determines everything else. When you truly become someone who always follows through, someone who never gives up, someone who continuously improves, success becomes inevitable. The path forward is simple but not easy. You will face resistance. Your old programming will fight back. Your brain will try to pull you back to familiar patterns. You will have days when you don't feel like improving, when you want to quit, when you question whether it's worth it. This is normal. This is expected. This is part of the process. The difference between winners and losers is not that winners don't face resistance. It's that winners push through resistance while losers use resistance as an excuse to quit. Remember, you are rewiring your brain. You are installing new programming. You are becoming a different person. This level of transformation requires patience, persistence, and absolute commitment to the process. But if you stay consistent, if you trust the science, if you commit to daily improvement, regardless of how you feel, you will experience a transformation that will shock you. Not overnight, but over time. Not through dramatic breakthroughs, but through compound growth. 6 months from now, if you apply what you've learned, you will not recognize the person you are today. Your confidence will be unshakable. Your discipline will be automatic. Your mindset will be unstoppable. Your execution will be relentless. Your growth will be continuous. People will notice the change. They'll ask what happened to you, what you've been doing differently, why you seem so confident and focused and successful. And you'll know that it wasn't luck. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't some external force that transformed your life. It was you taking control of your mind, systematically reprogramming your brain, and consistently applying the principles of mental mastery until transformation became inevitable. This is your moment. This is your opportunity. This is your chance to stop being average and start being extraordinary. To stop hoping for success and start engineering it. To stop letting life happen to you and start making life happen for you. The only question left is, are you ready to become unstoppable? Your future self is waiting. The person you're capable of becoming is already inside you, ready to emerge. But that person will only appear if you make the choice, take the action, and commit to the process. The time for excuses is over. The time for hoping is finished. The time for transformation is now. Welcome to your new life. Welcome to becoming unstoppable. The journey starts with your very next decision.